Hello and welcome to PhDear Diary. My name is Andy Salkeld and this is my video blog, my diary, whatever you want to call it, whilst I am undertaking a PhD at Leeds Beckett University. We're 3 months in, 4 months in, and we are approaching kind of the first real deadline, which is called the confirmation of registration. So this is kind of a formalization of what I will be researching over the next few years. And it requires the kind of preparation of a document, then a kind of hour-long-ish meeting to just discuss it, make sure that the kind of support and infrastructure is in place to support what I want to do, and generally just to kind of check in to make sure it's happening. And this is kind of, I am nervous about it, but at the same point I'm excited about it because I've finally reached a stage where I'm confident talking about what I want to do, but I am also still not confident that I have the complete knowledge and ability to be able to do it. So this is things like what I want to do is going to require a lot of quantitative analysis, so fairly deep statistical analysis around kind of multi-categorical variables, various moderated mediation analyses and things like this. And I haven't done any of it before. No, that doesn't mean it's not possible, but it's just that it's the unknown and so on. So I'm very much kind of living in that state where it's like, I've got an idea, I'm fairly comfortable in the concept and the idea, but it's the kind of practical things, it's the logistics of doing it that I'm uncertain about and so on. So that's kind of where I am. Yesterday, I met with the business school. So important to understand is I'm based within the psychology department, and within within universities, kind of the schools operate independently of one another. Obviously, there is kind of oversight and connections, but largely, if you work in the psychology department and someone works in the business department, they don't kind of overlap often. And that's not how I work personally. I am very much a problem solver, and I don't like kind of following or kind of limiting access. I believe in, this was kind of born into me through PwC. I believe in one firm or one organization and so on. And I think that I will need support from the business school or people within the business school who will know more about that side of organisational psychology, and particularly finance and those areas. But I will also need an understanding of psychology and what because I'm studying very much organizations and individuals, I need to make sure that I understand both well. And organizations, yes, there is the kind of combined psychological aspect of organizations are born out of multiple individuals, but there's also the kind of the business side of this, which is almost independent of the individual psychology attached to it. And then the individual metrics that I'm looking at are very much psychological metrics, and so I need to understand those as well. So I'm very much of the belief that I need to marry the two departments in a way and say, look, this is going to be important to both, so you should both be fully aware of what's going on. And that's kind of my typical problem solver approach, where I shouldn't try to just limit myself to one department and one kind of mindset. it should be broad and it should be everything. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. The meeting was good. I felt I was able to articulate what I wanted to do quite succinctly, and obviously it kind of came across well, was understood, and was able to kind of encourage thought within another academic who has never kind of considered what I'm considering before. And that's kind of an important litmus test of, like, have I made progress in my ideas and in my PhD? So that felt good. It was a good conversation. They kind of asked if I wanted to potentially present at their kind of annual symposium that mirrors the kind of psychology annual symposium that's going to take place in June. So that was kind of a good kind of feeling attached to it. So I've been preparing the kind of 10-minute presentation on what I'm going to be studying, what my research plan is, and what the research kind of proposal is, which basically I'll just present at the beginning of my confirmation of registration meeting, where I say this is what I'm intending to do, this is what I want to do, these are my concerns, and just basically summarize the 6,000 word document that I prepared. So all in all, I've got to a stage where I'm fairly comfortable. I want to get through this meeting and the presentation so that I can then actually start doing. And for me, the doing is the important bit, because up until now, everything is theoretical. And yes, PhD work is largely theoretical, and I will have to justify everything, and I will have to bring everything together in a kind of coherent argument. I will need to do a lot of research, basically just pick the topics I am looking at and deep dive on all of them, and probably write about 10,000 words on each one, making sure I cover the history through to how things are studied now, to how I am going to interpret and utilize these throughout my PhD. So this is largely just writing a chapter on each one. So this will be like, I will take organisational climate and I will write 5 to 10,000 words on what it is, what the construct means, how it's evolved, how it started being considered, what its kind of roots are, what are the primary kind of considerations about it, etc. And then say why I consider it's a mediator of organisational finance, and how it's measured, etc., etc. So that's kind of, those are the next steps in. So like, I want to get to doing, but then when the doing is happening and participants are taking place, are getting involved in the studies, etc., etc., then I want to be doing that bit, which is the pure read up, write up, and make sure that I have kind of 5 to 10,000 words of coherent support for what this means, why it's important, etc. And what I'm going to have to do is do that for each of the constructs I'm considering about, and then talk about them with regards to organisational financing. And this is where I feel I need the input from business, because business will understand finance in more detail than, say, the psychology view of business would be. So I want to make sure that I'm including both to the appropriate level of depth that a PhD requires. But yeah, so that's where all that is. I'm looking forward to getting started on kind of developing measures, developing surveys, I'm nervous about the statistical analysis, but I think the statistical analysis will just kind of, it will, that's a process, and those are things that can be taught, etc. So I'll be able to get a data set or build a dummy data set. Then I will look at saying, right, how would I do this one bit of analysis? How would I then do this one bit of analysis? And just go through each of those things and then be like, right, now we've seen how this works, and then rinse, repeat it across all the different experiments, quasi-experiments, and studies that I'm doing. So all of that's quite positive. The other good thing about going through the COR is that it will enable me to apply for a student loan. And this is something I didn't know when I started off, but when you undertake a PhD, you can receive a student loan for that, which makes sense. But what it means in my circumstance is that I can potentially use that student loan to support the recruitment of participants, which is good because it means that any large studies I need additional resource for, I will be able to finance the recruitment of people for these, and then I can just do that, and then I can enable myself to do the very hard bit of running studies, etc., and do that in a straightforward and simple manner, but also allow myself to extend it by inviting other people to be people and organisations to be involved. So that's kind of where I'm at with the PhD. But what it also means from a practical standpoint is I'm now at a stage where I'm actually comfortable talking about it to my network, and to kind of talk about it on, say, LinkedIn or Twitter, and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is a way to be involved in it. This is why it matters to you, everything like that. And I've talked about that over the past few weeks, but it lines up very nicely because we are now in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month here in the UK. And next week, I believe, is actually Mental Health Awareness Week. And I've done a lot of work on mental health awareness with regards to my book, etc. And it's actually the 2-year anniversary since Life is a Four-Letter Word came out. So that gives you a bit of a... So what I'm trying to do, and what I've been doing back end of this week, but we'll be doing a lot next week, is almost promoting what I'm doing, to say, hey, look, I've basically gone off the radar for 9 months, which I have done. It's been intentional. I needed to spend time to figure myself and my life out. I needed to do all these things and make sure I was comfortable with where things were, how things were going, what was going on, and to make sure I was happy with it. So I've now done that. I'm at a stage where I can talk about it, and this is just a nice alignment. It's not intended. It's just actually completely coincidental, but it's a nice alignment of I am doing the COR. It is the 2-year anniversary of Life is a Four-Letter Word, and it is Mental Health Awareness Week. So that kind of gives me a really good, right, well, now I'm going to talk about it with my network. I'm going to share it with people. I'm going to let them understand what I'm doing, how it works, why it's important, etc. And then it's I'm just going to crack on, and if people are interested and would like to know more or would like to be involved, it's over to them to get involved. I'm not going to chase people. One of the things I've always struggled with in life and in business is motivation is probably not the right word, but I don't like chasing. I do not believe maybe that's the wrong word. I don't want to hard sell people. I don't want to be saying to people, oh, you should definitely get involved with this. Or here's a list of services, you can buy what you like. That's not me. That's not what I like. I used to. I'm humbled by what has kind of gone on in my life. And I'm very much just like, look, this has worth to people. If you want to be involved, then that's kind of in your court and that's up for you to do. So that's very much where, and that's why I'm very much at a state where I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to share my experience, and then I'm going to leave it with other people to see if they're interested, if they want to be involved. Because I think that will be a very good way of, like, it will allow people that want to be a part, but my actual results will not be dependent on those people getting involved and those people those people and organizations' involvement. It will happen regardless. And that's kind of how I like doing most things in life, saying, well, I'm going to do this, and you can come along, you can be involved, you can do it, you can do what you want to do, but I'm doing what I want to do anyway. And that's probably part of my anxiety coming through, where I like having the certainty of myself, and then other people can bring their uncertainty or not to be involved. It gives me control, whereas when you're reliant on other people, it gives them control. And due to my various illnesses and so on, I need to keep control within my hands to look after my own well-being. But that's very much, that's the plan over the next week. If you're watching this, you'll have seen I've updated my website that now includes kind of a section on organisational finance research. I've updated various other bits, so it includes kind of my CV, things like that, just so that people can be aware of, like, I don't like talking about everything I've done and achieved, but other people do, so I want to make sure it's available for them to see and so on. And I know that is how the rest of the world works, whether I believe it or not. It is how it works, so you have to play the game to be a part of it. But yeah, so I've updated that. Next week, I'll write my first kind of proper blog post in a long time, and I will probably do another video alongside this, talking about my organisational finance research, so that people can kind of see, listen, watch me present on what I'm doing, why it's important, and let them kind of just have that 5-10 minute intro to just be like, oh, cool, that's what he's doing, that's interesting, move on with life, etc. So that's where all of that is. So work is positive, it's stressful. I'm going to get through the next week, and then I am going to, at my COR, talk about going part-time, because I have a lot of things going on, and I think I need to listen to what my body is telling me and not what my mind is telling me, and not just do what is expected. So I'm going to have that conversation and see how it kind of bears out, and so on. Rest of my life, pretty decent. Nothing much is really going on. Still preparing for the Goonhammer Open at the end of May. I signed up to play the Leeds GT, which is going to be in August. And I'm going to start, once I've got through Goonhammer, I'm going to start looking at other kind of local 40k events on weekends, where I can just go on, say, a Saturday, play 3 rounds, see what happens, and stuff like that. I so kind of prepped as I can for that. I'm going to went to see Doctor Strange last night. So that was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Spoilers, just before anyone kind of is like, you talk about that. Spoiler warning. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I really liked the change of pace from a very traditional Marvel film. I thought it felt like a horror film, and it felt like a really good horror film. Like the villain in it was very much inescapable, all powerful, and that was demonstrated on numerous times, and it was very well done. But it also had comedy elements and humor. So Sam Raimi, or however his name is pronounced, did exactly what he does, and it was good. And the important thing is, it sets up what the end game is going to be of this arc. So for those unaware, and this is my limited knowledge, it appears they're setting up kind of Secret Wars slash the I can't remember what it's called, like, but basically they use the term incursions, which is where universes collide and fight, and one wins or loses and is destroyed. And it appears like what they're going to do is, how do you kind of build a threat greater than wiping out half of the universe? Well, you wipe out all of the multiverse, etc. So they've definitely set that up nicely, and I think that's going to be I mean, we got the first hint of this in the first Avengers film, and then I believe it took 5 to 7 years to actually get to Infinity War / Endgame. And so this is going to be another 5 to 7 years of build up for how are we going to fix this? And it was done very well. I think they took a lot of risks, and for dedicated fans, it pays off. But I was with someone who is not as dedicated, doesn't remember it all, and they still enjoyed it, which is great. So yeah, that was really good, and I'm looking forward to carrying on watching those movies. Next week or so, I've got the first social kind of event that the other postgraduate researchers have set up. So this will be the kind of first. I've obviously met them, but it's kind of meeting them socially and not in the context of being a postgraduate researcher. So it'll just be a chance to get to know people, which will be nice. And yeah, generally, a lot of my life has been focused on the COR, getting ready for that. And that's coming to an end. So then I can kind of just carry on and figure things out thereafter. So all in all, very good. There'll probably be a few more of these things, like videos, updates on my website, etc., coming on over the next week at least. But I'm going to try and keep this going as best I can. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you again in a week. Thank you very much.